Today on BBC World News, we'll be looking at how a fall in production has affected Colombia, the second largest producer of Arabica coffee and its millions of coffee growers. We'll also be looking at why Colombia has become an investment oasis in an economically unstable world, as quoted by the Energy and Mining Minister Mauricio Cardenas Santamaria. And to finish off today's segment of BBC World News, we'll be looking at why Europe is holding back on the free trade agreement with Colombia. Colombia's coffee sector is in crisis. Over the past 4 years, production has fallen by 4,130,000 bags a year. This is a third of total production. While output was typically at 12 million, it has now fallen to 8 million bags. And additionally, the price of beans has dropped. This unfortunately means less money for the Coffee Federation, which depends on donations and royalties to run. The fund is used for environmental projects such as road building or home improvements to help coffee growing families and to improve their living standards and conditions. There have been efforts to salvage the Colombian coffee sector. The government has invested $165.3 million to sustain production, while the Coffee Growers Federation has promised a further $85 million over 5 years, $50 million of which would come from Nestle and Nespresso towards sustainable practice. This is necessary, seeing as coffee is one of the most traded commodities, and unfortunately this causes a lot of competition amongst suppliers, leading towards unethical production. Buyers and firms do not search for quality, but price and quantity, and this leads to unethical treatment of workers, child labour, and deforestation. Coffee production is said to be down due to the rain that began in 2009, causing coffee rust, ruining millions of crops, loss of income, reduced agricultural production, loss of welfare in the coffee sector, and loss of foreign markets. Fede Cafe's president, Luis Herano Munoz, says if the country cultivates humidity-resistant coffee, then production could go back up to 11 million bags. He's quoted saying, "We have to renovate, refresh and renovate with rust-resistant varieties, only occupying the youth of the Colombian coffee fields and recuperating them with rust-resistant varieties will allow us to get out of this coffee crisis." Another factor that is said to have influenced the fall in production is that the average age of a Colombian coffee farmer is 50, whereas in Vietnam the average age is 30. This makes it even harder to modernize the production methods. Colombia is said to have become an oasis in an economically unstable world. 81% of foreign investment funds, more than 4.85 billion, went to the oil and mining industry. A 24% increase in FDI was seen in the first 12 months of 2012 compared to the same time in 2011, and the 6 billion investment is predicted to go up to 15 billion by the end of the year. Foreign direct investment from sectors other than the mining industry is growing this year, above 80%, as discussed in a conference in Cartagena. Colombia's investment grade has said to have been increased by the crediting agencies Standard & Poor's and Moody's. Pacific Alliance agreements integrating Colombia, Chile's, Mexico and Peru's economies is generating international interest. Quote, "Colombia gives investors guarantees, it has never failed to pay its debts and always honours its contract. Given this, the government expects that FDI will reach 15 billion by the close of this year," Trade Minister Sergio Díaz-Grandos said. The FDI in Colombia was 2 billion in 2002, and this alone shows how much it's grown. Colombian peso has risen for the 9th day straight, its longest winning streak in 2 years. Amid speculation, foreign direct investment into oil and mining will boost dollar inflows into the South American nation. On Wednesday, 13th of June, the European Parliament approved a resolution stating that Colombia must improve its human and labour rights before it passes the pending free trade agreement between Peru and Colombia and the European world. The main aims are to reduce tariffs and quotas to widen market access and stimulate growth. President of the European Commission, José Manuel Barroso, called the FTA essential to promote the growth of our commercial relations and investments. Between Peru and Colombia, government wants a clear, binding roadmap to protect labour and human rights and the environment. This is because there have been criticism that they are not doing enough to protect their workers. According to a recent report by International Trade Union Confederation, Colombia is the most dangerous in the world for unionist workers. An example of this is the incident that happened in Cali when gunmen killed one victim and wounded 4 others during an assassination attempt on a labour organiser in Cali, Colombia. According to the local media, the assassins arrived at the house of the Cali Municipal Business Union and opened fire.
I'm Richard Howitt, Labour's Foreign Affairs spokesperson in the European Parliament, and I'm supporting Justice for Colombia's campaign to block the free trade agreement between the European Union and Colombia, because Colombia is the most dangerous place to be a trade unionist in the world. Colombia is the most dangerous place to be a human rights defender in the world. And I find it offensive that of all the countries in the world, the European Union has chosen this most dangerous nation, where the government has been so clearly complicit in the abuse of human rights, for which to have one of Europe's very first trade agreements. I'm for good relations with Colombia. I'm for a peace process and bringing back peace and prosperity to that country. But to reward Colombia with a free trade agreement, the ultimate prize that Europe can give, before those who have been responsible for the murder and assassination, the extrajudicial execution of trade unionists are brought to justice, is absolutely wrong. America has blocked the free trade agreement with Colombia, so has Norway, and so far so have we in the European Parliament. We're building a broad spread campaign against trade agreements with Colombia unless and until human rights for trade unionists are improved. There are very few nations in the world where the conscious and knowing abuse of human rights mean that we should not pursue trade relations. We all agree that that's true for apartheid South Africa or for Burma. Justice for Colombia believes, and Europe should believe, that this free trade agreement cannot today be agreed with Colombia.